He was 16, bone-tired and barefoot, selling sachet water while the sun burned his name into the dust. Then a silent black SUV kissed the curb, and a woman stepped out, 60 carved like granite, rich enough to buy the sky. She fed him, dressed him, promised safety. In a week, he wore a ring. In a month, he learned to fear the hallway that breathed at 1 a.m. and the black door that drank candlelight. Love felt like velvet until it felt like a cage. Behind those walls, portraits of boys who never grew old stared back, and the woman's honey eyes flickered the color of embers. Was she a savior or a storm in human skin? Tonight, a poor boy will gamble with a curse older than memory, and the house itself will decide who leaves alive. Before we dive in, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Drop your location and local hour in the comments. If you love African stories with heart suspense and moral twists, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. Easy's story began long before the black SUV rolled to a stop that day. He was 16, but his body carried the weight of a man twice his age. His feet were hardened by the burning ground, his hands blistered from lifting buckets, and his eyes were heavy with the kind of weariness that comes from hunger rather than lack of sleep. Every morning before dawn, he rose from the torn mat in his uncle's cramped mud house. His uncle Bako never spared him a kind word. To Bako, Eze was more servant than family cheap labor, whose existence meant fewer chores for him. The boy's days unfolded the same way. He filled his plastic bucket with bags of cold sachet water, then walked barefoot to the motor park where buses roared, conductors screamed, and life seemed louder than his thoughts. Cold, pure water, fresh water, he shouted, voice cracked from the dust in his throat. His slippers had holes so wide that every step let in sand and small stones, cutting his feet until they bled. The world rushed past him without care. Businessmen shoved mothers, balanced babies on their backs, while hurrying to buses and drivers honked endlessly. Easy kept shouting, but few listened. Sometimes he sold enough to afford a small meal of beans. Sometimes he went home with nothing but dust on his lips. That morning the sun pressed hard on his head, sweat rolled down his face, and he leaned against the rusted gate of the park. His throat burned for a sip of his own water, but he dared not touch one bag. Every sachet meant survival. Just as he was about to give up for the day, a long, sleek SUV rolled slowly toward the gate. It did not belong there. The tires whispered instead of screeched. The windows were tinted dark, reflecting the chaos outside like a mirror. The car stopped directly in front of him. The back window lowered with deliberate slowness, and inside sat a woman unlike anyone he had ever seen. She wore black sunglasses that covered half her face, but even through the shadows her beauty was startling. Her skin was smooth and glowing like polished bronze. Her lips, painted a deep shade of red, curved into the faintest of smiles. Her hair fell in waves, shining as though it belonged to someone from another world. But what froze Easy were her arms. They were thick, muscular, carved with veins like the branches of a tree. Her shoulders were broad, yet her waist narrowed elegantly. She was the kind of woman whose presence commanded silence. Even the noise of the park seemed to hush when she raised her hand and pointed at him. "You, come," she said. Her voice was calm but held the firmness of authority. Easy looked around, confused. Surely she meant someone else. He pointed at his chest. "Me. Yes. You." His heart thudded as he stepped closer, bucket swinging against his leg. The car's interior smelled of leather and perfume, so sweet it almost choked him. She lowered her glasses, revealing eyes the color of golden honey. They locked onto his unblinking, searching, as though peeling back the layers of his soul. "What's your name?" she asked. "Eze," he answered softly, almost afraid. "You live around here?" He nodded. "Yes, madam. With my uncle and your parents." His voice dropped lower. "My mother died when I was 10. My father, he left before I could know him." Her eyes lingered on him. She reached into a small purse, pulled out a bundle of fresh notes, and handed it through the window. Easy hesitated. He had never held so much money in his life, 10,000 naira crisp and clean. "Madam, I didn't do anything," he stammered. She smiled, and her lips glowed against the sunlight. "I know. That is why I am giving you. Eat something better tonight. Don't sleep on the floor." Before he could even whisper thank you, the glass rolled up and the SUV glided away, disappearing into the swarm of buses and shouting conductors. Easy stood frozen, trembling. His chest rose and fell like he had been running. For a moment he wondered if it had been a dream, but the money was real heavy in his hand, pressing against his skin. When he returned home, his uncle Bako noticed immediately. The man snatched the money and held it up against the dim light of their single kerosene lamp. "Where did you get this?" Bako barked. Ize told him everything, the car, the woman, her strange kindness. Bako squinted, suspicion curling in his eyes. 10,000 just like that, are you telling me the truth, boy? I swear, Uncle Ize pleaded. Then to his shock, Bako laughed. His laughter was harsh, broken by the years of cheap gin he swallowed every night. Maybe your hungry face finally paid off. Maybe she pitied you. You better pray she comes back tomorrow. And she did. 2 days later, the same SUV returned. This time, Madame Zara, as she later introduced herself, brought not only money but a bag of food, fragrant jollof rice, fried chicken, still steaming bottles of sweet drink, and even cake. She handed him a new shirt, plain but fresh, without holes. Ize's lips trembled with words that never came out. No one had ever treated him like this. No one had looked at him like he was worth noticing. Back at home, Uncle Bako tore open the bag of food before Eze could even touch it. He stuffed his mouth with chicken, his greasy fingers staining the table. I like this woman, he said with a grin. Did she say what she wants from you? Ize shook his head. No, Uncle. Nothing. Bako leaned forward, eyes gleaming. Well, if she keeps being this generous, you better ask her to marry you. Do you know how many women like that walk around handing out money and food? You think your mates will pity you while you keep selling water? Look at yourself, you don't even own slippers without holes. If a rich woman wants you, you say yes. The words lodged in Ize's head like stubborn seeds. That night, as he lay on his thin mat staring at the cracked ceiling, he wondered why Zara had chosen him. What did she see in his tired eyes that made her stop? Days later, when she returned again, the question was answered, not with words but with a proposal that would shake his world. She stepped out of the SUV, her presence silencing the air around them, and asked softly but firmly, Do you want to leave this life, Ize? He nodded, throat dry. Do you trust me? He hesitated, then whispered, Yes, madam. Her honey eyes softened almost motherly. Then marry me. The ground seemed to fall from beneath his feet. His mouth opened, but no sound came. She repeated the words slower, clearer. Marry me and you will never suffer again. Ize felt his uncle's voice echo inside his mind. If a rich woman wants you, you say yes. The noise of the motor park faded. The sweat on his shirt felt heavier. His stomach growled with emptiness. He looked into Zara's unblinking eyes and saw not just beauty but power. Power that could either save or swallow him whole. Are you serious? He finally asked, his voice barely a whisper. Yes, she answered, without hesitation. The world around him roared again, buses, shouts, dust, but inside his chest was silent. Something told him life had just shifted forever. The proposal hung in the air like smoke that refused to fade. Ize's legs trembled beneath him. He could not understand why a woman with wealth, so obvious beauty, so striking, and muscles that made even grown men look away, would want him, a boy with holes in his slippers and dust in his hair. Yet her words had been clear. Marry me. I will take care of you. You won't suffer again. That night, Uncle Bako could hardly contain his excitement when Ize told him. The old man clapped his rough hands together, his laughter filling the dark room. Do you see what I told you? You are a lucky boy. The gods have finally smiled on you. She may be older, but she is rich, beautiful, and strong. Say yes, Ize. This is the door out of misery. Don't be a fool. Ize wanted to protest, to say that it felt wrong, unnatural. But when he opened his mouth, no words came. Hunger silenced him. His uncle's words echoed in his skull long after Bako had fallen asleep, snoring with a full belly from the woman's food. If a rich woman wants you, say yes. The next morning, Ize woke with his decision heavy in his chest. He had not truly chosen. The world had chosen for him. Poverty leaves little room for honor. So when Madame Zara returned that afternoon dressed in a golden gown that shimmered under the sunlight, Ize lowered his eyes and whispered, Yes. Her smile was small, yet it carried the weight of triumph. Tomorrow, she said simply, everything is ready. The following day felt unreal. There were no drums, no dancing, no family dressed in bright colors. Instead, there was silence broken only by the shuffle of 2 guards in black suits, standing at the door like carved statues. The registrar recited words that felt distant like wind through trees. Ize's gray suit was too big, the sleeves swallowing his wrists, but he stood still. Do you take this woman as your lawful wife? The registrar asked. Ize paused for 2 long seconds. His heart raced. He looked at Zara, radiant in her gown shoulders, broad eyes glowing softly. The pause ended with a quiet yes. The papers were signed, rings exchanged. With a smile that chilled more than comforted, Zara leaned close and whispered, You belong to me now. They drove away from the registry in the black SUV. Easy stared out the window trying to swallow the lump in his throat. The city passed in a blur of horns, shouting hawkers in crowded markets. But when the gates of Zara's mansion opened, the noise of the world was cut away as if by magic. The house was more than a home, it was a kingdom. White walls that seemed to glow a driveway, paved smooth and shining gardens, trimmed into perfect shapes. Inside the floors gleamed so bright, Easy was afraid to step on them. Chandeliers sparkled above his head. Each room stretched wider than the entire house he shared with Uncle Baco. Zara led him to a bedroom bigger than anything he had imagined. A bed large enough for 4 silk sheets, a flat-screen TV, a fridge filled with drinks and snacks. He stood frozen at the door. "You will rest here," Zara said gently. "No one will shout at you again. No one will beat you. You are safe." Her hand brushed his cheek warm and heavy. "You don't have to share my room yet. You are still young. I will wait." She closed the door softly behind her, leaving Easy to collapse onto the bed that swallowed him whole. Yet even as his body sank into comfort, his heart was restless. He stared at the mirror across the room. Was this paradise? Or a cage dressed in silk? The next morning, Easy woke not to his uncle's shouts or the crow of roosters, but to silence and cool air. The mattress hugged him like clouds. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming. But the knock at his door shattered the illusion. Zara entered, her robe white and flowing, her hair brushed back. She smiled. "Good morning, husband." Easy scrambled to his feet. "Good morning, Ma, good morning." She chuckled softly. "Don't worry, you'll get used to it. Breakfast is ready. Come downstairs." The dining table looked like a feast from heaven. Plates of fried yam, bowls of pap, jugs of juice, loaves of breadfruits, sliced into perfect shapes. Easy sat cautiously, hands trembling. Zara entered in black gym clothes, her arms stretching against the tight fabric. She looked like someone ready for battle, not a newlywed. "Eat," she said. "I don't like people starving in my house." The yam was soft, the egg sauce perfectly spiced. He had never tasted food like it. "You are a quiet one," Zara said between sips of juice. "I'm just not used to this," Easy admitted. "To what?" "Ik gestuurd fogly. Food. Bed. Peace." Her smile was thin, unreadable. "You'll get used to it. That's why I chose you." The words struck him like a cold wind. "Chose me? Why me?" "Because you are different. Boys your age are loud, greedy, foolish. But you have pain in your eyes. I know it. I see it." Her gaze lingered until he looked away, heat crawling up his neck. She stood, her voice softer. "I have a gym. Join me later if you want to stretch your body." Easy blinked. "A gym room. A full one. I live by discipline. Now you will too." That afternoon, while exploring the mansion, Eze stumbled upon the gym. The sight of Zara lifting a barbell heavier than anything he had seen left him frozen. Her arms bulged her face, calm and focused veins standing like ropes on her neck. He stepped back quietly and fled before she noticed. That evening, he sat on his bed staring at his new phone. He had not spoken to anyone in months. He dialed the only number he remembered, his childhood friend Obi. Easy Obi's voice burst through the line. "Where have you been? Your uncle said you got married. Married, is he mad?" Easy chuckled nervously. "It's true, I did." "To who?" "Her name is Zara. She's rich. She saved me." There was silence then. Obi's voice dropped. "How old is she?" Easy hesitated. 60. "What, bro? Are you possessed? This doesn't sound right. People don't just marry poor street boys unless they want something." Isa's stomach nodded. "I thought the same. But she hasn't hurt me. Not yet. Be careful. Don't eat too deep. Don't sleep too hard. If anything feels wrong, leave. Promise me." "I promise." That night, Eze lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The mansion was silent, too silent. And then he heard a faint sound like a door closing softly at the end of the hallway. His chest tightened. He crept to his own door and peered out. Zara walked barefoot down the corridor, her black robe trailing like smoke, her back muscles shifting under the fabric. She stopped at a door, tall, painted black, covered with strange carvings of snakes and birds. She pulled a key from her robe, unlocked it, and slipped inside. A dim red glow spilled out before the door shut. Easy's heart pounded. He shut his own door, pressed his back against it, and whispered to himself, "What is in that room?" The next morning he forced himself to act normal. But the question gnawed at him like hunger. The mansion was no longer just gold and silk, it was shadow and silence, and a door that breathed secrets in the night. Easy tried to pretend everything was normal, but normal was a word that had no place inside Zara's mansion. Each day the rooms gleamed like mirrors, the food tasted like something from heaven, and the silence pressed on his chest like a weight. Yet every night, without fail, he heard the soft hum of Zara's footsteps, the whisper of her robe sliding across the polished floor, and the click of the black door unlocking. At first he told himself it was none of his business. She was his wife now, strange as that reality felt. If she had secrets, perhaps it was safer not to know them. But curiosity grows like weeds, it does not listen to reason. By the fourth night, Easy could not silence the pounding questions in his head. What is in that room? Why only at night? Why the red glow like fire breathing behind the cracks? The morning after one such night as they ate breakfast together, Zara noticed his silence. She leaned back in her chair, her muscular arms crossed her honey eyes sharp. "You are not eating," she said. I didn't sleep well," Easy replied. "Bad dreams." He nodded quickly, though his heart screamed another truth. "Dreams mean nothing," she said calmly. "The past tries to scare us sometimes. You must ignore it." Her tone was soft, but her gaze pierced through him like a spear. He forced a weak smile and nodded, though inside, his fear grew deeper. That afternoon, Easy tried to distract himself by exploring more of the mansion. He passed through endless hallways, each one decorated with paintings of landscapes and rivers he had never seen. In the kitchen, 3 women worked silently, cooks who bowed but did not speak to him. Their eyes, however, seemed heavy with secrets. He found himself drifting back toward the black door. He stopped a few feet away, staring at its carvings, snakes, winding into bird shapes, twisting into something between human and beast. His fingers hovered near the handle. Cold air seemed to seep from the door, prickling his skin. He whispered to himself, "Still locked." A voice behind him snapped him back to reality. Looking for something, he spun around. Zara stood there in a long gown, her eyes unblinking, her arms folded. The air thickened around them. I was just..." Looking around, he stammered, forcing a smile. Her expression didn't soften. "This part of the house is private. Never come here again unless I ask you to." Easy swallowed hard and nodded. "Okay, I'm sorry." She stepped closer, so close that he could feel the warmth of her breath. Her honey eyes bore into his until his knees felt weak. "You are my husband now. That means you must trust me." "I do," he whispered, though it was a lie. Her lips curved into a slow smile. "Good." Then she turned and walked away, her robe trailing like a shadow that lingered long after she disappeared. That night the mansion seemed heavier than ever. Easy lay on his bed, eyes wide open, waiting. And then right on time the sound came, the soft click of her door, the slow bare footsteps, the faint hum like a lullaby. He crept to his door and cracked it open just slightly. Zara passed by, her robe brushing the floor, her hair loose, her back muscles shifting. She walked to the black door, unlocked it, and entered. This time, as the door shut, a red light glowed from beneath it, pulsing like a heartbeat. Easy's chest tightened. He closed his door fast, pressing his hand against it to stop his trembling. By morning, he could no longer carry the weight alone. He slipped into the kitchen and found one of the cooks, a round woman named Mama Martina, chopping onions. "Good morning, Ma," he greeted softly. She smiled faintly. "Good morning, sir." Ease hesitated, then lowered his voice. "What is inside that last room at the end of the hallway?" Her hands froze. Slowly she lifted her eyes, scanning the corners of the kitchen, as if the walls themselves could listen. She leaned closer, her voice a whisper. "Don't ask questions you don't want answers to." "What do you mean?" he pressed. "Enjoy your food, sleep well, and do not walk around at night," she said firmly. Then she turned her back on him and continued chopping, ending the conversation. Easy's hands shook as he returned to his room. That night his mind spun like a wheel on fire. He picked up his phone and dialed Obi. When his friend answered, Easy's voice trembled. "Obi, something is wrong. There's a locked room in this house. She goes there every night. I saw carvings on the door. There's light inside." Silence stretched before Obi's voice returned low and serious. "I told you, Easy, this is not normal. She didn't marry you out of love. She wants something. You need proof. Find out what she's hiding. Then run." "I can't. The gates are locked every night. Her guards watch me all day." "Then be smart. Be careful. But don't let her trap you. Promise me." "I promise," Ise whispered, though his promise felt fragile. The following night his chance came. He lay on his bed pretending to sleep, his door slightly open. At 1 o'clock, Zara's steps echoed again. He waited until he heard the black door close. Then, heart-hammering, he crept down the hall. He slipped into her room, massive and scented with oils and perfumes. On the table her keys lay glinting in the faint light. His fingers shook as he snatched them and hurried back to the hallway. The key slid into the black door's lock with a metallic click. The door creaked open. Heat blasted his face, heavy and suffocating. The room glowed red, walls draped in cloth chalk symbols covering the floor, candles burning low. At the center stood an altar, and on the altar photographs. Dozens, no hundreds of photographs of boys his age. Some smiling, some terrified. Easy's blood froze. His eyes darted across the table until they landed on one photo that made his knees weaken. His own face stared back at him fresh and new, a candle burning before it. Beside the altar sat shelves of bottles filled with dark liquids, feathers, charms, and clay figures bound with red thread. Easy staggered back, bile rising in his throat. That was when the door closed behind him with a soft click. He turned. Zara stood there, her honey eyes now glowing like embers, red and unholy. Easy's breath caught. His feet refused to move. "You opened the door," she said quietly, her voice too calm. You entered what I told you never to touch." "I didn't mean to," he stammered. I just got scared. I had to know." Her gaze locked on his fire burning in her irises. "What did you see?" Eze hesitated. His mouth was dry. "I saw the photos. I saw my picture. The candles. The charms." Her lips pressed into a thin line. Silence hung heavy. Then she exhaled slowly, her chest rising and falling like a storm held back. "You weren't supposed to see that," she said. The flames of the candles flared higher, shadows dancing wildly on the walls. Easy's body shook. "Please, I don't understand. Why me?" Her voice cracked for the first time. "Because you have nothing. No one to miss you. No one to come looking. That is why I chose you." The words slammed into him like a blow. His chest caved with grief and betrayal. "You lied to me," he whispered, tears welling in his eyes. "Yes," she admitted softly. "But I also meant it when I said you were special." He took a trembling step back. "Let me go." Her eyes glistened, strangely torn between sorrow and fire. "I can't." The red light deepened, the heat pressed harder, and Eze realized the truth. He was no husband. He was prey. The red glow of the secret room burned into Easy's eyes long after he fled to his bedroom. He lay on the enormous bedsheets, damp, with his sweat heart drumming against his ribs. His mind replayed the images, photos of boys like him, candles flickering over their faces, the clay figures tied with red thread. And at the center, his own picture still fresh, framed by fire. He pressed his palms against his face, trying to block it out, but the vision clung to him like a shadow. Sleep was impossible. When dawn finally crept through the curtains, he stumbled downstairs, body heavy as stone. Zara sat at the dining table in a crimson dress, her skin gleaming, her hair pulled into a sharp bun. She looked flawless, powerful, and utterly untouchable. "You didn't eat," she said, gesturing at the untouched food before him. "I'm not hungry," he murmured. Her honey eyes narrowed. "Are you sick?" He forced a faint smile. "Just bad dreams." She studied him for a moment, then leaned back, sipping her juice with slow elegance. "Dreams are lies told by the past. Ignore them." But Easy knew this was no dream. He had seen her secret with his own eyes. That afternoon his hands shook as he dialed Obi again. He slipped into the backyard where the walls were high and the guards out of sight. His voice was a whisper. "Obi, I found it. The truth. She's keeping an altar in that room. There are pictures, hundreds of boys like me. My photo is there too." There was a long silence. Then Obi's voice came low and urgent. "I told you this wasn't right. She's not just some rich widow, Eze. This is something darker. You need to get out." "I can't," Eze whispered. "The gates are locked every night. The guards watch me like hawks during the day." "Then find a way," Obi insisted. "If you stay, you'll end up like those boys in the photos." Easy's chest tightened. "She told me I must trust her." "But I can't, Obi. I can't." "Promise me," Obi said. "If you see another chance to escape, you'll take it. Promise." "I promise," Easy breathed, though his heart pounded with doubt. That night, he lay in bed, pretending to sleep. At exactly 1 o'clock, he heard it again, the creak of her door, the whisper of her robe, the soft hum of her voice. He waited until the black door clicked shut before rising silently. His bare feet slid over the cold floor. This time, he didn't just peep. He moved closer, pressing his ear against the door. Strange sounds leaked through the chant of words. He didn't recognize the hiss of something burning, and then silence, broken by a whisper that chilled his spine. His own name, Asa. He staggered back, his chest tight. She was speaking his name in that room over and over, her voice carrying both tenderness and command. He fled back to his room, locked the door, and slid down to the floor trembling. By morning his face was pale. He went to the kitchen again, desperate for answers. Mama Martina, the cook, hummed softly as she peeled yam. "Please," he begged, his voice cracking. "Tell me what is inside that room. Tell me before I lose my mind." Her knife paused. She looked at him with weary eyes, her lips tight. "Don't ask questions you don't want answers to." "I've already seen it," he whispered. "The photos, the candles. My face was there." Her eyes widened in fear. She leaned closer, whispering quickly. "Then you must be careful. Do not anger her. Pretend you saw nothing. Eat what she gives you, smile when she speaks. But never ever go near that room again." "Why? What is she?" Mama Martina's eyes darted toward the hallway. "Not everything that looks human is human. Some things are older, some things walk with curses. Pray you never find out more than you already have." She turned away sharply, ending the conversation. Ease returned to his room, his chest heavy with dread. He stared at the mirror, whispering to his reflection, "Who are you now?" That night he decided he could no longer wait for fate to crush him. He would find proof, or he would die trying. He pretended to sleep again, blanket pulled up to his chin. At 1 o'clock he opened his eyes as her footsteps passed. He waited until the black door clicked shut, then slipped into her room. The scent of her perfume clung to the air, sweet and suffocating. The room was vast, mirrors, oils, silks, and there on the table her keys again. His hands trembled as he picked them up. He hurried to the hallway, heart racing. The key slid into the lock. The door groaned open. The red room breathed heat. Candles lined the walls, wax dripping like blood. Symbols in chalk sprawled across the floor like scars. The altar stood tall, covered in red cloth. Photographs fluttered in the warm air. Boys, smiling boys, crying boys who would never grow old. And again at the center, his own face burning under candlelight. He stumbled forward, desperate to tear it down. But before he could touch it, a voice froze him. "You weren't supposed to see this." He turned slowly. Zara stood in the doorway, her honey eyes glowing red, her robe trailing across the floor like smoke. His knees weakened. Why me?" Her lips curved into a sad smile. "Because you were easy to lose. A boy with no father, no mother, no one to come searching. You were perfect." Tears burned in his eyes. "You lied to me. You promised safety. You gave me food, clothes, a bed. You made me believe." "I never lied about everything," she interrupted. "I saw something in you, something I hadn't seen in a long time." "What are you?" His voice cracked. Her eyes softened for a moment, then hardened again. "Cursed, bound, my strength, my beauty, my wealth, they all come with a price. Every few years I must take youth from a boy with a pure heart. Without it I wither, I rot, I fade into dust." Isa's stomach twisted. "So that's what this is. You married me to kill me." Her eyes glistened. "To keep living, to keep fighting against a fate I never asked for." "Then stop it," he shouted, voice breaking. "End it now." Her lips trembled. "If I stop, I die. And not gently. My body will burn from within, my skin will peel, my bones will break. I have seen it happen to others like me." "Then maybe it's time," Ise whispered, anger and grief colliding in his chest. Silence fell heavy between them. Only the crackling of the candles filled the room. For a moment she looked almost human again, her gaze soft with sorrow. Then she turned away, whispering, "I need time to think." The door swung open as if by its own will. Ise stumbled back into the hallway, heart thundering, his palms wet with sweat. Her final words followed him like chains. "If you try to run, Ise, I won't stop you." He froze at the doorway, turning to face her. "What does that mean?" "It means," she said softly, "I hope you don't." That night he locked himself in his room, clutching the sheets to his chest. Her words replayed in his head over and over. She wanted him to stay, yet gave him the choice to flee. Was it a trap? Or a shred of the humanity she claimed she still had? Ise sat on the floor until the first light of dawn crept through the curtains, whispering to himself, "I must find help. I cannot fight this alone." Morning light poured into the room, but it gave Ise no comfort. He sat hunched on the edge of the massive bed, his body trembling from the weight of truth. Zara was not just an older woman with wealth and muscles. She was cursed, bound to some dark power that demanded the youth of boys like him. She had admitted it with her own lips. He thought of the photos, the candles, the clay figures tied with thread. His stomach twisted until he nearly vomited. By noon, Zara appeared at his door, smiling faintly as though nothing had happened the night before. She wore a flowing white dress that hugged her powerful frame. Come, she said softly. We are going out. He followed Hart, pounding into the waiting SUV. The guards opened the gates, and soon they were on the road heading toward the city. The ride was silent except for the hum of the engine. When Ease dared glance at her, she seemed calm, almost tender, her honey eyes soft again. He wondered if he had imagined the glowing red fire in them last night. They stopped at government offices, at banks, at places Easy had never dreamed of entering. Zara held his hand tightly each time, introducing him in a voice sweet enough to mask steel. This is my husband, she told a stunned bank manager. I want a joint account opened in our names. The man's eyes nearly leapt out of his head. He glanced at Ise, then back at her. Yes, madam, of course. Papers were signed. New IDs were made. Everywhere they went, whispers followed. What is a boy like that doing with a woman like her? By evening, Ise's head spun with confusion. He returned to the mansion with a new bank card, a new phone line, even a suit Zara had insisted he wear. On the outside, his life looked transformed, no longer the barefoot water seller of yesterday, but the husband of a wealthy queen. Yet inside, his heart felt shackled. That night, he tossed on the bed, unable to sleep. He stood and looked in the mirror. His reflection stared back, but he no longer recognized the boy he saw. His eyes carried not just weariness now, but fear. Who are you now? He whispered to himself. The house creaked with silence. Then faintly, he heard it again, the soft hum of Zara's lullaby drifting through the corridor. He rushed to the door, pressed his ear to it, and caught the sound of her bare feet gliding past. He cracked the door open just a little and saw her moving robe trailing like smoke, key in hand. She unlocked the black door and slipped inside. A dim red light pulsed beneath the frame. His hands clenched into fists. He wanted to follow, to storm inside, to smash the altar and demand freedom. But his legs betrayed him, frozen in place. He closed the door quietly and returned to bed, heart hammering so hard it hurt. The next day, Easy could not hold it in any longer. He called Obi, his voice low and frantic. I saw her again. She whispered my name inside that room. Over and over. Obi, she is using me. I can feel it. Then get out now, Obi urged. Don't wait. Find someone who can fight her, someone who knows these things. But how the gates are locked? The guards never sleep. She told me herself she owns them. They are part of her. Silence stretched across the line. Then Obi said, go to Mama Ijoma. Do you remember her? The old herbalist from our village. People say she sees what others can't. She may know how to stop this. Hope flickered in Easy's chest like a dying candle catching breath again. Yes, I remember. That night, he did not sleep. He waited until dawn, when the guards yawned by the gate and the sky turned pale. With trembling hands, he packed a few clothes into a nylon bag. His heart pounded as he approached the gate. Where are you going this early? One guard asked lazily. Ise forced a weak smile. I want to buy something at the junction. The man barely looked at him. He pressed a button and the gate slid open. Ise stepped out. His chest burst with relief. He was free. He walked quickly, then ran his feet flying until he reached the main road. He boarded the first bus to his village, heart leaping each time it slowed. He feared the SUV would appear behind him, that Zara would drag him back in chains. But by afternoon he arrived. Dust rose as he stepped down from the bus. Villagers stared at him, whispering. He didn't care. He went straight to Mama Ijioma's compound. The old woman sat on a mat beneath a tree, chewing bitter cola. Her eyes, clouded with age, lifted to meet his. You came, she said, as though she had been waiting. Ise dropped to his knees. Mama, help me. She is not normal. She has my photo on an altar. She whispers my name in the night. Mama Ijioma's face hardened. I warned your uncle, but his ears are deaf with greed. You know her? Ise asked, eyes wide. The old woman nodded slowly. Zara is not a woman. She is a thing bound by an ancient curse. Her real name is lost, but people call her the Keeper of Youth. She steals years from the innocent to feed her beauty and power. Many boys before you have vanished. Ise's stomach nodded. How do I stop her? Mama Ijeoma rose slowly, her bones creaking like dry wood. She reached into her hut and returned with a small charm wrapped in black cloth. She pressed it into his hand. This will confuse her. Keep it close to your skin. Do not open it, do not smell it, do not lose it. Return before the 7th night, for that is when she will finish the ritual. If you wait too long, not even the strongest spirit can save you. Ise clutched the charm as though it were life itself. I will do as you say. She looked into his eyes, her voice low and heavy. You must pretend. Pretend you saw nothing. Pretend you love her. Only then will you have a chance to strike when the time is right. He nodded, though his throat was dry. As the sun bled into the horizon, Easy boarded another bus back to the city, the charm hidden in his pocket. Each bump on the road jolted his fear higher. He imagined Zara waiting at the mansion gates, eyes glowing, smile sharpened into a blade. By midnight he returned. The guard opened the gate without question. "Back already?" he asked. "Yes," Easy muttered. "I just needed to clear my head." The house was silent as a tomb. He tiptoed to his room, locked the door, and pressed his back against it, clutching the charm. The air was colder than before, the walls whispering with secrets. At 2 o'clock her footsteps came again, steady and unhurried. The black door opened. He heard her hum, his name woven into the chant. A strange heat filled his chest. For a moment he thought his soul was being pulled, his breath dragged from him. He pressed the charm against his skin, and the sensation stopped instantly. His chest heaved. The charm burned hot in his palm, but it held. He whispered to himself, "I will survive this. I must." Yet deep inside he knew surviving meant more than holding on. It meant facing Zara in her red room, breaking the altar and destroying whatever bound her to the curse. And for that he would need more than courage. He would need to become a fighter in a game where even love could be a trap. The next morning sunlight filtered through the curtains, but it could not chase away the weight pressing on Easy's chest. He sat on the bed, clutching the black charm Mama Ijeoma had given him. It was warm now, almost alive, pulsing faintly against his skin. He whispered a silent prayer, though he wasn't sure who he was praying to. When he descended to breakfast, Zara was already seated at the long dining table, dressed in a fitted blue gown that shimmered under the chandelier. Her arms glistened as if rubbed with oil, her face flawless as carved marble. She looked up and smiled faintly. "You left yesterday," she said. Her tone was calm, but her words sliced through him like a knife. Eze forced his lips into a nervous smile. "Yes, I needed to breathe, to see my village." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Did you miss them?" He swallowed. "A little." For a long moment she said nothing, simply studied his face. Then her lips curved into a slow smile. "Are you afraid of me now?" His heart thudded. He wanted to scream yes, but he shook his head. "No." Her eyes hardened. "Are you lying?" His throat closed. She leaned forward, her gaze burning into his. "Look at me." He lifted his eyes reluctantly. She held him there until he felt stripped bare, then whispered, "I told you the truth. I didn't plan to use you, but I have no choice. Without the ritual, I will be destroyed." Her words fell heavy like chains clinking shut. Easy managed to whisper, "Why me?" She leaned back in her chair, her voice softening. "Because you remind me of who I once was." He frowned. "What do you mean?" Her gaze drifted beyond him into memory. "I was once young like you. Poor, desperate, forgotten. My parents made a bargain with a spirit in the forest. They thought they were saving me. Instead, they sold me." Easy's blood ran cold. "How long ago?" She smiled sadly. 160 years. I was born in 1865. My name was not Zara then." The room seemed to tilt. He stared at her, disbelief burning his throat. "You're not 60? "No," she whispered. "I am far older. This body, this strength, this beauty, it is not mine. It is borrowed, stolen, sustained only by the lives of boys like you." Easy pushed back from the table, bile rising. "So I was right. You married me only to kill me." Her voice cracked a rare tremor, shaking it. "Not to kill you, Eze, to live, to keep existing in a world that would crumble without me." He shook his head. "That's not life. That's a cage built from blood." Her lips quivered, her eyes glistening with a strange sorrow. For a moment, he almost pitied her. Almost. That night, he lay in bed with the charm pressed against his chest. At 1 o'clock, the familiar sound came, her door opening, her bare feet padding softly across the corridor, the lullaby humming low. He waited, trembling. Then as her door closed and the black door opened, he slipped into the hall once more. This time he followed. Quietly, step by step, he approached the glowing crack beneath the door. His name echoed, faintly chanted in rhythm with the flickering flames inside. He leaned forward, pressing his ear against the wood. Heat seared his skin. Suddenly the chanting stopped. Easy froze, his breath caught in his chest. "Are you listening, husband?" Zara's voice whispered from the other side, low and sharp. He staggered back, heart slamming against his ribs. His legs nearly gave way. He bolted back to his room and locked the door, chest heaving. The next morning his hands shook as he picked at the food on his plate. Zara watched him silently sipping her juice. After a long pause, she said, "You are restless." Curious. Curiosity can save you or destroy you. Which will it be? Easy. He forced a weak laugh. I was only trying to understand you. Her lips curved. Good, because if you understand me, maybe you'll forgive me. He said nothing, only lowered his eyes. Later that day, he sought out Mama Martina again. She was alone in the kitchen grinding pepper. Mama, he whispered urgently, tell me, how long have you worked here? Why do you stay? Her hands froze. She glanced around, then sighed deeply. Because once I was like you, young, poor. She took me in, fed me, clothed me. I was meant to be her sacrifice, but she spared me. Said I reminded her of her sister. Instead, she bound me here. If I leave, I will die. Easy's mouth went dry. Then you know how to stop her. Martina shook her head sadly. No one has ever stopped her. Boys come, boys vanish. She grows stronger. We keep her secrets or we perish. Easy's throat tightened. Not this time, I won't let her win. That evening, Zara summoned him to her chamber. She wore a dark gown, her hair braided with gold. She looked regal, untouchable. You didn't eat much yesterday, she said softly. I wasn't hungry. She studied him for a long moment, then sighed. I am sorry, Easy. Sorry I chose you. But it's too late now. The ritual has already begun. Ice ran through his veins. What do you mean? Her voice was quiet, almost tender. I placed your soul on the altar 2 nights ago. I whispered your name. In 2 days you will fall asleep and never wake up. His chest tightened until he could not breathe. Tears welled in his eyes. You're going to kill me. She looked away, her voice breaking. Not kill. You will feel no pain. You will simply fade. Easy staggered back. I trusted you. You gave me hope. And all this time you were preparing my death. Her lips trembled. I didn't want to, but I cannot stop now. If I do, I crumble. I burn. I'd be screaming. Then maybe it's time you did, he spat, fury mixing with sorrow. Silence swallowed the room. Only the faint hum of the air conditioner filled the void. Finally, she whispered, if you try to run, the guards will catch you. They are mine. They belong to me. But still, if you want to try, I will not stop you. Her words were a trap, yet they also held a flicker of mercy. That night, as she hummed his name in the red room, Ise clutched the charm tightly. Heat surged in his chest, trying to pull his spirit away. But the charm flared hot, burning the pull to ash. He gasped, trembling but alive. In the morning, his resolve hardened. He would not fade quietly like the others. He would fight. He would find a way to break the altar, even if it meant facing Zara in her true form. For the first time, Easy whispered not to himself but to the walls, to the spirits listening beyond the house. I will not be your prey. I will survive. The mansion felt colder than ever. Easy could not shake the feeling that the walls themselves were listening, breathing, waiting for him to collapse into silence. He carried the black charm close to his skin, as Mama Ijeoma had instructed, and each time he felt the strange tug in his chest like invisible hands trying to pull his soul away. The charm flared hot and burned the pull into nothing. Without it, he knew he would already be gone. By the 6th morning, Zara greeted him at breakfast in a crimson robe, her face serene, her honey eyes soft again, almost gentle. She poured him juice, her movements graceful as if the horrors of the red room had never happened. You're quiet again, she said, breaking a piece of bread. I don't have much to say, Easy replied, staring at his plate. Then let me speak. Her voice dropped lower. You remind me of my brother. His name was Ikenna. He used to carry water on his head every morning just like you. Easy looked up sharply. What happened to him? Her lips quivered. He died before I turned 20. That was before the curse bound me, before I stopped aging. I dreamed of him for years, but now, not even dreams will bring him back. She sighed deeply, shoulders trembling, just slightly before she steadied them again. For a brief moment, Eze almost believed the monster in her had a heart buried deep within. But the memory of the altar crushed that thought quickly. That evening, as the sun bled red into the sky, he slipped out once more, heart pounding, and boarded a bus back to the village. The roads were rough the journey long, but his fear gave him wings. By the time he arrived at Mama Ijeoma's compound, dusk had fallen. She was waiting outside, chewing bitter cola as if she had expected him. Her cloudy eyes studied his trembling body. Day 6, she muttered. You are lucky your legs carried you here at all. Easy dropped to his knees, desperate. Mama, she said she already placed my soul on the altar. She said I will sleep and never wake up after tomorrow. Tell me what to do, please. The old woman's face darkened. The charm I gave you delays her power, but it cannot destroy it. You have only one chance left. She entered her hut and returned with a small red stone, smooth and gleaming, as though fire lived inside it. She placed it in his hands. When she begins the final ritual, throw this stone onto the altar. It will confuse her spirit, weaken her bond. Then you must break the altar with your own hands. Easy's breath caught. And if I do, she will reveal her true self. She will beg, she will scream, she will curse. Do not stop. If you falter, you are finished. He stared at the stone, his heart thundering. And if I succeed, her voice dropped to a whisper, then she will crumble into dust and the house of lies will fall with her. But you must be prepared for the truth, boy. Sometimes victory leaves only ashes. Easy's throat tightened. Will I survive? She did not answer. Her silence was heavier than words. At dawn he returned to the city, the red stone hidden in his palm, the charm pressed against his chest. The guards at the gate opened it without question, though. Their eyes followed him with strange intensity, as if they already knew. Inside the mansion felt different. The flowers lining the hallway had wilted overnight. The lights flickered as though struggling to hold power. Even the air smelled sour like a fire gone cold. When he entered his room, he froze. On the bed lay a neatly folded white cloth with gold edges. Beside it, a framed photo of himself placed carefully on the pillow. A note sat atop the cloth, written in Zara's elegant hand. Wear this tomorrow night. His stomach twisted. The ceremony was near. She was no longer hiding it. That night, as he lay awake, the hallway grew colder. At exactly 10 o'clock, Zara's steps echoed slow and deliberate. She stopped at his door but did not knock. Instead, her voice drifted through the woods, soft, almost mournful. I didn't want this, Easy. I could have chosen anyone, but I chose you. I thought I was strong enough to stop. I was wrong. Her voice cracked, pain seeping through. Then her footsteps drifted away. Easy pressed his back against the door, tears burning in his eyes. Her sorrow felt real, but it did not erase the truth. She would kill him if he gave her the chance. The seventh night came. He dressed in the white cloth, tucking the black charm at his chest and the red stone in his palm. The hallway was lined with candles, flickering shadows dancing along the walls. The black door stood open, the red glow pulsing like a living heart. Inside, Zara waited in a golden gown, her eyes soft, her face unreadable. The altar had changed again. His photo sat at the center, surrounded by chalk symbols and fresh candles. She stretched out her hand. Come, she said gently. His legs shook as he obeyed. She led him to the center of the room and whispered, Sit. He crossed his legs on the floor, clutching the stone tightly. She began to hum the same lullaby he had heard night after night, but this time it carried a sharpness that cut into his chest. She lifted a small knife carved from bone, its edge glinting in the red light. Ease's heart thundered. His body screamed to run, but he stayed. When she raised the knife, he shouted now and hurled the red stone at the altar. The crack was deafening. The floor trembled. The candles flared wildly. Zara screamed, dropping the knife, her hands clutching her chest, as though fire burned inside her. Easy rushed forward, grabbed his photo from the altar, and tore it into shreds. Flames burst upward, symbols on the floor glowing before splitting apart. The altar cracked down the middle, spilling ash and fire. Zara staggered back, her face twisting. Her honey eyes flared red, then dimmed. Her skin cracked like dry clay peeling away. Her voice deepened into something monstrous. No, stop, please, Ease. I don't want to die. Tears stung his eyes, but he tore again, breaking the last of the photo. With a final scream, Zara collapsed. Her muscles melted, her skin turned gray, and her body crumbled into dust. Only her golden gown remained empty on the floor. Silence followed. The flames died by themselves. The red room grew cold, its walls bare, its symbols vanished. Only ashes and a torn photo remained. Easy fell to his knees, chest heaving, staring at the dust that had once been his wife. On the ground near the altar, he saw a single torn image, Zara as a young girl smiling, holding hands with her brother Ikenna. His tears fell freely. I didn't want to kill you, he whispered, but you gave me no choice. The house groaned above him, as though mourning its mistress. Shadows crept along the walls, doors rattled, and the air felt suddenly heavy with the weight of centuries collapsing. Easy clutched the black charm to his chest, closed his eyes, and prayed he would survive the ruin. The silence after Zara crumbled into dust was louder than any scream. Easy stood in the ruined red room chest, heaving his hands, trembling, as the last shred of her photo fluttered to the ground. The altar was split in two chalk symbols, burned away candles extinguished. Yet the air felt heavy, as though the house itself was grieving. He staggered backward, leaning against the cracked wall. Every nerve in his body screamed that he should run, but his legs refused to obey. He had ended her curse, broken the bond, yet victory tasted like ashes. His tears blurred the sight of her golden gown, lying limp on the floor, the last proof that Zara had once been more than dust. When he finally gathered enough strength, he stumbled into the hallway. The mansion groaned around him. The flowers in their vases had shriveled, the paint on the walls peeled, and the air conditioner sputtered its last breath. He realized the house had never been real. It had been held together by her power, and now that power was gone. He forced himself to his room, locked the door, and collapsed on the bed. But sleep would not come. Each time he closed his eyes, he saw her face, not the monster she became, but the broken woman who whispered, "I didn't want this." By dawn, the mansion felt like a tomb. The kitchen was empty, the cooks gone. Even the guards had vanished from their posts. Only silence remained. Easy's stomach twisted. He wanted to leave, but fear of what waited outside kept him frozen. Then footsteps. Quick, light, familiar. The door burst open. Easy. Obi stood there, panting, sweat dripping down his brow. His backpack sagged with weight. "You're alive," Obi whispered, grabbing him into a desperate embrace. Easy's knees buckled. How are you here?" "I climbed over the back fence last night. I saw the candles go out. I knew something had happened. I hid in the laundry room until morning." Ise pulled back, eyes wide. "You shouldn't have come. It's dangerous." Obi shook his head. "I couldn't leave you. Not after everything." Before Ise could reply, a loud knock rattled the front door. Both boys froze. The knock came again, harder. They crept to the window and peeked through the curtain. 3 men stood at the gate, dressed in black. One held a staff carved with strange symbols, its tip glowing faintly. Obi's voice shook. "Who are they?" Ise's throat tightened. Her circle, others like her. The man with the staff shouted, "We know she is inside." Ise's blood turned cold. He and Obi ran to the back door, but the lock had melted shut. A seal shimmered faintly across the wood. "They sealed it," Obi gasped. "Then we climb," Ise said. They dashed to the backyard. The high wall loomed, but broken bricks were stacked nearby. They scrambled up, but before Ise could pull himself over, a voice thundered, "Turn around." They froze. One of the men stood below staff, glowing brighter, his eyes faintly lit like Zara's had once been. "Where is she?" he asked calmly. Ise's voice cracked. "She's gone." "Gone where?" Dust Ise whispered. "I broke the altar." The man's face remained unreadable. Finally, he muttered, "It wasn't supposed to end this way." She was chosen. She didn't want to continue. Ise snapped, his anger flaring. She was tired. She wanted to stop. The man lowered his staff slowly, his eyes dimming. "Then you've started something you don't understand." Without another word, he turned and walked into the trees beyond the wall, vanishing as if swallowed by shadows. Ise and Obi scrambled over the wall and dropped to the street below. The world outside was alive again. Cars honked, vendors shouted, children ran with laughter. It felt surreal, like stepping into another universe. They ran until they reached the bus park. Both collapsed onto a wooden bench, chest heaving. Obi handed Ise a sachet of cold water. He drank it in one gulp, his body trembling. "What now?" Obi asked softly. Ise stared at the ground. "I can't go back to my uncle. He gave me away for money. I have nowhere else." Obi placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then come to my place. My mother will ask questions, but she is kind. She won't turn you away." Ise nodded slowly. His heart was still heavy, but for the first time he felt the faint flicker of hope. That night he lay on a mat in Obi's room. The fan creaked above the walls, smelled faintly of kerosene and palm oil. It was small, humble, but safe. Yet sleep still eluded him. Each time he drifted, he saw Zara's honey eyes glowing red or her face crumbling into dust. He heard her whisper, "I didn't want this." 5 nights passed. Obi's mother, Mama Jinika, finally sat beside Ise after dinner. Her gaze was soft but steady. "My son tells me you've been through something heavy," she said gently. "I don't know what it is, and I don't need to know. But you are alive, and when God keeps someone alive, it's never without a reason." Ise's voice trembled. "I don't even know who I am anymore." She touched his shoulder. "You are a survivor, and survivors are stronger than they think." Her words sank deep. For the first time, he felt a spark ignite within his broken chest. Days turned into weeks. Ise began to walk the streets again, but now with different eyes. He saw the boys selling sachet water, their feet bare, their faces weary. He remembered his own pain, his hunger, the loneliness that had made him easy prey for Zara. One evening, as the sun dipped low, he turned to Obi. I want to help boys like us, the forgotten ones, the ones no one sees. Obi frowned. That's a big dream. Easy nodded. I know. But something good must come from all this. She may have taken many lives, but I won't let her shadow take mine too. I'll start small food, a place to sleep. Maybe hope. Obi smiled faintly. Then we'll do it together. And so with the help of a local church and Obi's family, they began a small project. They called it Heart of the Forgotten. Word spread slowly at first, then faster. Boys who had once slept under bridges, boys who had carried water until their bones ached, began to arrive. Ize shared food with them, offered mats to sleep on, told them they mattered. But at night, when silence fell, he sometimes opened a small wooden box where he kept the last torn photo of Zara and her brother Ikena. He stared at her youthful smile, tears welling, and whispered, I hope you found peace. I hope your curse ended with me. He would close the box and tuck it away again. Because even though she brought him fear, even though she had betrayed him, she had also given him something unexpected purpose. And Ize was determined to walk in it. The weeks after Zara's fall felt like a blur. Ize adjusted slowly to a new rhythm of life, one that no longer echoed with footsteps in candlelit corridors, or the sound of a woman's lullaby whispering his name at midnight. Instead, he awoke to the creak of Obi's ceiling fan, the smell of beans simmering in Mama Janika's pot, and the chatter of children running down the street in school uniforms. It was a world alive, noisy, imperfect, and real. Yet even in this new safety, Ize carried shadows. He often woke in the night sweating, clutching the black charm Mama Ijeoma had given him, though the old woman had told him it no longer served any purpose. Sometimes he dreamed of Zara's last scream, sometimes of her honey-brown eyes before they burned red. Most haunting of all were the dreams where she appeared as a young girl laughing beside her brother Ikena. Those dreams tore at his heart, making him wonder whether she had once truly been innocent before the curse devoured her life. But Ize also clung to something brighter. With Obi's encouragement, he threw himself into their small project, Heart of the Forgotten. It began humbly, a rented one-room flat near the bus park, where they distributed food donated by the church. Soon 2 more boys joined them, then 4, then 10. At night, mats lined the floor wall to wall, a patchwork shelter for those who had slept in gutters the night before. Why do you do this? One boy asked him one evening, chewing on fried yam they had managed to buy. Ize looked at the boy barefoot thin, his eyes tired the way Ize's had once been. Because I know what it feels like when nobody sees you. And I don't want anyone else to feel that way. The boy nodded slowly, silent, but Ize saw a spark of dignity return to his gaze. That was enough. Still whispers about Zara followed Ize like a ghost. The mansion had vanished within days of her death, leaving only a barren patch of dry sand where walls had once gleamed white. Some villagers called it a miracle, others a curse. Rumors spread that a woman of great power had fallen and that spirits had swallowed her house whole. A few even said her followers were searching for the boy who had ended her reign. Eze tried not to listen, but each time he walked through the market he felt eyes on him, some curious, some fearful. Obi would whisper, ignore them, keep moving. Yet the unease never left. One night Obi returned to their shelter, looking pale. Ize, he said, voice low. I heard something. Men were asking about you in the market. They said you destroyed what was not yours to touch. That you stole power meant for others. Ize's chest tightened. Do they know where I am? Not yet. But they're looking. The memory of the staff-wielding man at the mansion's gate returned to Ize like a knife. You've started something you don't understand. The words echoed, chilling him. He sat in silence for a long time, staring at the mats where the boys now slept peacefully. Finally, he whispered, Then I'll be ready when they come. Obi frowned. Ready how we're just boys. They have power we don't understand. Ize touched the wooden box under his bed where Zara's torn photo lay. We have truth, and sometimes truth is stronger than power. Obi looked at him, doubt flickering in his eyes, but said nothing. A week later, Ize returned to his village to visit Mama Ijeoma. She was in her backyard, grinding herbs in a wooden mortar. When she saw him, her face softened into a tired smile. You lived, she said simply. Thanks to you, Ize replied, kneeling before her. No, she corrected, tapping his chest. Thanks to your heart. You were brave enough to see her pain, but strong enough to end it anyway. Ize swallowed hard. Mama, others are looking for me. They said Zara was chosen, that I destroyed what wasn't mine. The old woman's eyes clouded with sorrow. Zara was bound to a covenant older than memory. When you broke her altar, you broke more than her curse. You tore a hole in something dark. And darkness does not like to be disturbed. Then what happens now? Easy asked. She sighed. You must live. That is the only answer. Live loudly enough that their whispers cannot silence you. And protect those boys, because they are your shield as much as you are theirs. Her words clung to him on the journey back. That night, lying on his mat, he whispered to himself, live, protect, be more than their victim. But living was not easy. The nightmares still came. In them, Zara would appear at the end of a hallway, her robe trailing smoke, her eyes red. Sometimes she begged him to save her. Sometimes she cursed him for betraying her. He would wake with tears on his cheeks, heart aching, unable to decide if she had been his captor, his savior, or both. One dawn, as the sky glowed pale, Obi found him sitting outside staring at the torn photo in his hands. Why do you keep that? Obi asked softly. Easy wiped his eyes. Because she wasn't only a monster, she was also a victim. And I don't want to forget that. Obi sighed, sitting beside him. Then remember. But don't let her shadow chain you. You survived her for a reason. Easy nodded, slowly folding the photo back into its box. Weeks later, the shelter hosted its largest gathering yet. 20 boys crowded the small flat, laughing, eating jollof rice Mama Janika had cooked. Their voices filled the air with life. For the first time in years, Easy felt joy stronger than fear. Standing at the doorway, he thought of Zara's mansion, cold, silent, full of whispers, and compared it to this noisy, cramped room bursting with warmth. He realized something. Then she had tried to build immortality through fear, but here he was building legacy through love. That night, as the boys slept, Easy whispered a prayer into the dark. Not for himself, but for them. That they would never know the kind of loneliness that made him easy prey. That they would grow, rise, and one day carry the fire of Heart of the Forgotten far beyond what he could imagine. And though shadows still circled in the corners of his memory, Easy felt a flicker of peace. Because even if darkness returned, he was no longer the barefoot boy selling water at the bus park. He was someone who had faced the storm and chosen light. And that choice, he knew, was the beginning of something greater than survival. It was the beginning of destiny. The night air was thick with smoke from nearby cooking fires, and stars glittered like scattered glass across the sky. Easy sat alone outside the small shelter, his hands folded around the wooden box that held Zara's torn photo. The boys were asleep inside their soft snores, weaving into the hum of crickets. Obi had long since drifted off, but Easy's heart refused rest. He turned the photo over in his hands, staring at the smile of the young girl who had once been Zara. Were you ever free? He whispered into the night. Or were you always chained? The question burned him because he knew the answer. Zara had been trapped long before he met her. She was as much a victim of the curse as he had been. But she had chosen survival at the cost of others, while he had chosen to end the cycle no matter the price. That difference defined them. Days turned to weeks, and Heart of the Forgotten grew. A nearby church donated old-school uniforms, and soon some of the boys returned to classrooms they had abandoned years before. A local tailor taught them to sew, while another volunteer taught carpentry. The project became more than shelter, it became hope. Ise felt pride each time he saw one of the boys laugh without fear or sit upright with dignity restored. But shadows lingered. One afternoon, Obi came rushing in breathless. Ise, he panted, I saw him again. One of Zara's followers, the man with the staff. He was at the market asking questions about you. Ise's stomach tightened. Did he see you? No, but people are whispering. They say a boy destroyed a house that wasn't really a house. They say spirits are angry. Ise clenched his fists. Let them whisper. I won't hide. That night he prayed silently for courage, yet fear clawed at him. He remembered the man's words. You've started something you don't understand. Was Zara's death the end or the beginning of something darker? The answer came weeks later. Ise woke one night to pounding on the shelter door. Obi jumped up, eyes wide. The boys stirred in fear. Stay quiet, Ise whispered. He pushed Obi behind him and opened the door a crack. A woman stood there, cloaked in black, her eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. She looked older than Zara, but her skin carried the same unnatural glow. Her voice was soft, but sharp. You broke the altar, she said. Ise's heart hammered. Who are you? The woman stepped closer, her gaze burning into his, her sister, her blood. You ended her, but in doing so, you released what held us together. Do you think curses die so easily, boy? Ise gripped the doorframe, refusing to step back. If you've come to finish me, then do it. I'm not afraid. Her lips curved faintly. Bravery, or foolishness, perhaps both. But hear this, Zara's fall has torn a hole. Others will come to claim what she left behind. The choice you made is not the end, it is the spark of a greater fire. And just as suddenly she turned and vanished into the night, leaving only silence. Ize closed the door slowly, his chest heaving. Obi's voice trembled. What did she mean? Ize stared at the sleeping boys, their faces, peaceful, unaware of the storm outside. She meant the fight isn't over, he whispered. But this time, we won't face it alone. From that day, he trained the boys not just in trade and learning, but in strength. They rose early, carried buckets of water, ran along dusty roads, learned to stand tall. Not because we want war, Ize told them, but because we must never again be easy prey. Years began to shape him. The boy who once sold sachet water barefoot became a young man whose voice carried weight. He spoke at the church, at village meetings, even in schools. His words reached hearts because they were not polished, not learned from books, they were born from scars. Darkness exists, he told them, but so does choice. And when you choose light, you break chains older than curses. Yet even as he grew into a leader, the memory of Zara never left him. On quiet nights, he opened the wooden box, touched the torn photo, and whispered, I hope you're at peace now. Sometimes he imagined her smile softening, as though the girl she once was could hear him. One evening, Mama Ijeoma visited the shelter. Her steps were slow, her body bent with age, but her eyes still carried fire. She watched the boys studying by lantern, light their voices murmuring as they read aloud. You have done well, she said, placing a hand on Ize's shoulder. I only gave them what I once prayed for, he replied. She smiled faintly. That is the way to heal the world. To become for others what you once needed yourself. Tears pricked his eyes. But what if her followers return? What if the curse rises again? The old woman's voice was steady. Then you will face it as you did before, with courage, with truth, and with the strength of those you've saved. Remember, easy curses are strong, but hearts united are stronger. Her words sank deep, and that night, as Ize looked at the boys sleeping peacefully, he understood something new. His story had begun in suffering, twisted into terror, and almost ended in ashes. But because he survived, because he chose differently, it had become something larger, a story of hope. And though shadows would always circle, he was no longer the boy with holes in his slippers. He was no longer a victim of hunger or a prisoner of a cursed woman's mansion. He was a builder of futures, a keeper of hope, a bearer of light. The battle was not over. But he was no longer afraid. Life often tests us in ways that feel unbearable. Ize's story reminds us that even in betrayal, poverty, and danger, there is always a choice whether to surrender to darkness or rise toward light. Zara chose survival at the expense of others, and though she had wealth and power, her soul was never free. Ize, though poor and forgotten, chose courage and truth, and through his pain he found purpose. In our own lives, we face temptations to compromise, to harm others for our gain, or to give up when life feels cruel. But true strength lies in enduring and lifting others and turning wounds into wisdom. What about you? If life has tested you, what lessons have you carried forward? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your reflections. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss another tale of courage, betrayal, and redemption.